What?
It's time now for My Two Favorite Librarians. Brought to you by the Copper Tree Boutique in Dale's Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.
Hi, this is My Two Favorite Librarians. I'm Denise Corey.
I'm Chantel Taylor, and today we're talking about intergenerational family.
I said books with multiple generations. I don't know why you have to make this so difficult.
Well, that's what they're called.
Multi-generation books? Multi-generation?
Intergenerational family. That's what it says. Sagas.
That's a BuzzFeed article, right?
It's Book Riot.
You can't see, but she has an article that she's waving in front of me to prove her point, which does not translate well to radio.
But you get it.
I do get it.
But I'm not wrong.
So, do you want to talk about your intergenerational family saga article?
Well, there's two. So Book Riot actually had two lists. They had one that was 100 intergenerational family sagas from 2017.
I want you to say that 5 times fast.
And then
she just gave me a bad look.
And then I found a more recent article from 2020 with 8 intergenerational family sagas.
Have you read any of these books?
Shockingly, yes.
Wow.
I have.
Were they the Canadian books on the list?
Some of them, yes.
You read a Canadian book?
I know, it's shocking. I know.
It's shocking to me.
So I have read The House of the Spirits by Isabel. No, I knew I was waiting for you.
Okay.
By Isabel Allende. I read it quite a while ago. I believe it was when I was trying to better myself through reading classics. That only lasted a few summers.
And then you just decided to better yourself by reading smut and romance.
By making myself happy.
I see.
So I did read it, and it starts with, because it takes place in Chile.
I don't know. I've never read it. Looking at me is not going to help you.
I just assume that you've had. It's one of those Latin American countries that had a dictator. That's very, terrible. And
wow. That
is very sweeping and white sounding.
That is very,
I think it's Chile, but it starts with the grandfather and it ends with the granddaughter. And all I can remember is the granddaughter had all her fingers broken in the camps.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So you loved that book?
Yeah, immensely.
Mm-hmm. So are there any big standouts in the list for you? Or
Well, a new one that I think we've just talked about is Homecoming by Yagasai. Did you just read Homecoming, or did you read Transcendent Kingdom?
I read Homecoming because we were going to discuss it with my book club. And yeah, it's like these families that are parted and go on and live very different lives.
I'm just pulling up my other list because it was too big to print off. So Yagasai, she's newish. So I think her first book was 2019.
And I think she only has 2 books out.
Yes, because 2020, it's in my notes here. 2020, Transcendent. Now I can't pronounce things. The words have left me.
This is what happens when we record of an afternoon. We're just kind of...
We've had too much sugar. And
somebody brought in fudge.
Kingdom? I just said it right a few minutes ago, didn't I?
Transcendent?
Yeah, thank you.
Transcendent Kingdom. Wow. I really want to be the person who edits this radio show. Sorry.
The Thornbirds was on a lot of lists.
I have tried to read The Thornbirds. I've never read The Thornbirds. Have you read it? No.
Oh, there it is.
It's been on a lot of different lists, and I thought, I'll read The Thornbirds.
It's often on a lot of romance lists, and I think, but no.
I've never been able to successfully read that book.
What have you got?
Do you want me to talk about what I've read?
Yeah, I'll find what I've read on my giant list of 100.
So, Barkskins by Annie Prue, and you might know her name because she wrote Brokeback Mountain. She also wrote a book, something about postcards.
Oh, I don't know.
It was short stories. It was great. And she wrote The Shipping News. So Bearskins, I read this book back in 2016, and I went back to look at my notes from reading it because it covers over 300 years of intergenerational family saga.
Wow.
So it starts in the late 1690s when two men arrive in New France as indentured servants. And one is René Selle and the other is Charles Duquette. And they're both involved in the logging industry. But their families they're intertwined and they diverge. And one family ends up being sort of this logging magnate. They're running a conglomerate. They have all kinds of money. And the other one ends up being a family that works in the woods. And as you went further and further down the list of descendants, at one point I was just letting the names wash over me because you just kind of lost track. But it was really good. It was super epic novel. Obviously, it's covering 300 years. So there are a lot of characters.
Okay, so what do we think actually classifies intergenerational? Because I'm looking through the 100 list from Book Riot, and I'm thinking, really?
Yeah,
really?
I took a glance at that list too after you mentioned it to me before. Because to me, intergenerational...
It should be at least 3, don't you think?
Has to be at least 3 generations, yeah.
Because Anne of Green Gables...
That's funny. In my notes, I have a note. Should you talk about Anne of Green Gables?
I wouldn't consider that intergenerational because it's just... Although, I'm thinking of the book, not the series. Because it would just be Marilla and Matthew and Anne.
But I think they're probably thinking of the whole Anne...
Let me just scroll back up.
Series.
No, it's talking about just Anne of Green Gables. So I wouldn't consider that intergenerational. I wouldn't have that on my list.
As the standalone book.
Yeah.
As the series, I would. Because it goes on for her, she and Gilbert get married and they have kids.
See, that would then introduce, a third generation.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how many Anne of Green Gables books there are. How many are there?
Are there 6?
I'm depending on you. You're from PEI. You're supposed to be the expert.
Well, I had the first 3.
Uh-huh.
But I thought there were 3 more. Now I'm going to have to Google things.
Do you want me to Google that?
No, it's okay. I'll do it. Oh, there's 7. So Green Gables, Avonlea, The Island, Ingleside?
Yes.
Okay.
You're the one from the island.
I know. House of Dreams, Windy Willows. And then there's Rilla of Ingleside and Rainbow Valley. So there's more than 3.
More than 3. But you read 3.
Yes. I read Green Gables, Avonlea, and The Island.
Weren't you forced to read all of those books? Shouldn't they have made you read them in school or something?
No, those were fun books we were supposed to read.
So we've just talked about it as a series, because then I want to ask you what you think about Ken Follett's Century Trilogy as an intergenerational saga. So it is 3 books: The Fall of Giants, Winter of the World, The Edge of Eternity. It follows 5 families who are variously connected from pre-World War I up to the Cold War.
Well, I would say it's an intergenerational saga, definitely.
But it does it over 3 books.
Yeah, I mean, so is this a Pop Sugar Reading Challenge?
Yes.
So you need to find a book.
Yes. So the book I'm reading right now is called Hamnet, or Hamnet and Judith. It depends on where it's published, by Maggie O'Farrell. And it's historical fiction about the life of Shakespeare. And it's looking specifically at the loss of his son, Hamnet. And then a few years later, he writes the play Hamlet. But in their house are Shakespeare's parents. Shakespeare's off in London writing and producing plays, but also his wife and their children live in the house with his parents. So that's 3 generations in one house. I figure that'll work.
Yeah, it will work. So
Hamnet and Judith is what I am thinking I'm going to count as my multi-generational book.
Did you finish Anna Karenina?
I did, but I read that one a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay, so it's finished.
To me, that's not really like, okay, so Anna Karenina, it's like her and her marriage and her children, and then her leaving her husband because she's in love with this other man. And then, spoiler alert, she gets hit by a train. Now you don't have to read it.
I wasn't planning on it. I wasn't even planning on watching the movie.
I don't see that that's a multi-generational book. Again, I mean,
yeah.
I think maybe her parents are in it, but they don't play a big role. Yeah.
The Glass Castle. It's been so long since I read it. Because I would say that's one family as well.
Is that the Jeanette Walls?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's like her parents and her, I mean, sometimes her grandparents come and visit.
But it's not, yeah.
I wouldn't constitute that as multi-generational.
Fall on Your Knees is also on my list.
Fall on Your Knees is, though. Because
I didn't finish Fall on Your Knees. I was like, no.
I read it so long ago. I read it in the 90s. I mean,
because obviously there'd be the parents and the little girl, but then do you go forward into her life with her children?
The frightening thing that you need to know about the 90s is that they were 30 years ago, and I don't remember things anymore. 1990 was 31 years ago.
Okay, stop saying that. That's a meme that's happening all over the internet.
I know.
We don't need that.
I know. So that one was an Oprah book club pick, and Oprah's current book club pick. Yes, she is still doing book club picks.
Yeah, she is.
She picked the Gilead novels, which is 4 novels for her current book club pick. Gilead, Home, Lila, and Jack.
Oh, that was on my list too, but I don't know who.
Marilyn Robinson is the author. I have Gilead on my list of books to read, but I've never read it. But it's featured on lists of
I saw it on a couple of.
But, you know, there are a lot of books I want to read and really not enough time in the world to do it.
There's also a lot of these books. There are a lot of multi-generational books.
Sagas.
Yes.
So what have you read?
So I've read Joy Luck.
The Joy Luck Club?
Yes, which I'd been since the 90s since I read that. I don't remember. There must be grandchildren in it, I think. So that would be 3 generations.
I remember going to see the movie.
Yes.
With some friends of mine in university. And when we got back, my friend called her mother and was like, I just want to say that I love you. And her mother's like,
are you drunk?
Yeah, what's wrong with you? And she's like, nothing's wrong with me. I just want to tell you I love you. It's like, okay then.
I read the Yaya Sisterhood. Again, don't remember it. I don't know. I feel like it's mother-daughter. But then there was also another book which might have gone into grandchildren.
It was mostly mother-daughter, but then the mother is all messed up because of the way, because of her relationship with her mother. So I guess it's multi-generational female trauma.
I guess, yeah. Blind Assassin.
I don't even remember that.
I remember nothing about
you
it.
Mentally blocked it because you hate all Margaret Atwood.
Although I feel like I read Blind Assassin, Cat's Eye, and Robber Bride.
Yep.
Fairly close-ish together. And then I think I read
Handmaid's Tale.
And then I was done with that nonsense.
You were never going to read Margaret Atwood again.
Yeah.
And you have kept to that vow.
I have. Quite strongly.
What else?
Well, I mentioned a couple already. The Glass Castle.
Yep.
And Fall on Your Knees. Although technically I didn't really read it all. But I'm counting it.
Why didn't you finish it? Is it because it's
horrible?
Super depressing?
Yes.
Now I want to look the list up. Can I look at your list?
Yeah. I have it on my phone. And I did notice on this peruse through that Homecoming is on that list. So I thought that list was from 2017.
I read Commonwealth by Anne Patchett.
Yes, and you probably read the Blue Thread one.
No, I didn't, actually. I read East of Eden, but that one I read like maybe in the late 80s. So
Yeah, I saw the movie, but I've never seen. The Sound and the Fury is on there.
I mean, I don't know that I agree with a lot of these.
I would agree with,
With me.
Yeah, I would agree with
me.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also a good list if you're looking for something that involves families. Because a lot of people really do like those. I have a YouTuber that I watch, and she is obsessed with intergenerational family sagas. The more heart-wrenching and like awful, the better.
Something that we've talked about recently is on here. Roots.
Yes, we talked about that last week. Books from the 70s.
Oh, yeah. That was last week. I lose track. And I mean, that covers
Yes.
years and years and years of the same family. And it is heartbreaking. We could read George R.R. Martin.
No.
I feel like I don't have enough time left in my life to read his books.
No.
I feel like he doesn't have enough time left in his life to finish those books. He should really get on that. People are just calling him or like messaging him all the time and saying, when is the next book coming out? Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of this list.
We'll post the list on our My Two Favorite Librarians page.
Yeah.
So you can judge for yourself.
What are you reading right now? I bet it's not a family saga.
Ew. Well, there are families in it. Actually, I don't want to talk about what I'm reading. I want to talk about what I'm watching.
What are you watching?
So we just got in Miss Scarlet and the Duke, which is a PBS masterpiece.
Isn't it like a BBC production?
No, I think it's PBS.
Is it American?
No, I don't think it's American. I don't think it's BBC though, because there were a lot of PBS ads going through. Anyway, Miss Scarlet and the Duke, not a romance per se.
It sounds like a romance.
It does sound like a romance, doesn't it?
It also sounds like
you keep calling it the Scarecrow.
The Scarecrow and Mrs. King. That really dates me a lot.
So Miss Scarlet, Liza, her father is a retired detective who runs a private investigation office, private eye office, except they wouldn't have called it that in Victorian times. And in the first episode, he dies and she takes over his sort of office. I like it. I'm excited to go on to the next couple of episodes. I only got one watched. I was a little bit anxious because of how terribly women are treated in that era, and they really went to great lengths to sort of show you how helpless women are without a man to take care of them.
So good news. They have just announced that season 2 will be made.
Everybody's talking about it. So the library does own this. I'm borrowing the library's copy, so you can place a hold on it. But in the first episode, a man comes looking to find his niece, and she finds her, and it turns out it's not her uncle. It's actually her husband. Her uncle has died, and because they are married, although separated, because he's not a very nice husband, he has claimed her inheritance, and so he just gets her committed to get rid of her so he can like take her like land holdings and money. And I just about like, I can feel like my heart getting really like clamped up inside my chest.
You're
like,
just so angry for these fictional characters.
Well, and the fact that it was so easy to do.
Yes.
And you know,
that
you can't go out at night. That's inappropriate.
Women didn't have a lot of protections.
You know, her father dies and she's like, if we don't do something, like we're going to be out on the street. Like, what am I going to do if I don't become a private detective? Anyway, I'm really enjoying it and I'm looking forward to seeing the next few episodes. Quite delightful cast. I like her sort of lady's maid or the housemaid. She's very sassy and
this is set in Victorian.
I think it's like 18.
London?
Yes, in London.
That's probably why I thought it was BBC.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's PBS. But anyway, really nicely done. Again, much like Bridgerton, very nice costumes. The set is very gray and very typical like London. But her clothes and her hair, the intricacies of her bun is unbelievable. So anyway, I highly recommend Miss Scarlet and the Duke.
Miss Scarlet and
he's not a Duke. He's actually a detective, but I'm assuming his nickname at some point is the Duke.
It does sound like a romance novel.
Oh, there was another horrible part where she, like, the woman she's looking for is, like, working in, like, a club, and she's not a sex worker, but they come into the club to take all the women away, and then they, like, strap them down to give them, like, exams, and it's just like, oh, can you imagine just being, like, pulled out of your place of work, and it's like, oh, a bunch of men you don't know strapping you to a table, and, like, oh,
that's a nightmare.
Awful.
Victorian
London, terrible.
I don't want to watch this show now.
No. That's only a moment. She gets out of it. She's very smart. She tells them she's the favorite sex worker of this detective, and then she immediately gets taken off the table and sent to him. She gets her way out of it.
And then he's like, you're what now?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to talk about something that my two favorite librarians is going to do later this month.
Okay.
On Thursday, April 22nd at 3 o'clock, we are going to do a Facebook Live. And this month, we're going to talk about T.J. Klune.
Very exciting.
So Chantel and I are both reading books by T.J. Klune right now. And we're reading different books so that we can talk about them. And I'm very excited to do this. And I've been doing some research on T.J. Klune, and I'm not going to talk about any of it right now, because I need to save things for
Thursday. Facebook Live.
Yeah. But if you're interested in any of our other Facebook Lives, you can go back on the Cumberland Public Library's Facebook page and find us doing our other Facebook Lives. We talked about the Bridgertons. We talked about Neil Gaiman. We talked about... What else did we talk about?
We did A Homemade Life by Molly Weisenberg.
Right.
Is that all we've done? What do we do at Christmas time?
Reading intentions.
Oh, yes.
Or reading goals.
Yeah, for 2021.
Yeah. So you can go back and watch those anytime you want. Another Facebook Live we're going to be doing, which is less fun and frivolous, is our State of the Library meeting. We did not have one in 2020 because COVID. We were shut down and most everybody had to stay home. But this year it will be on Tuesday, April 27th at 7 o'clock. And we're going to do that through Facebook Live. And we're going to be talking about the library's budget, where our funding comes from, and what we've been doing during COVID. And we'll also be taking questions from people that we'll be answering after we give our presentation. So this is all just part of wanting to be transparent and letting you know what your library is doing.
Exciting.
And Chantel will have statistics. She's very excited about it. You can tell, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have some interesting statistics.
Yeah.
I like statistics more than other people, I think.
Although it is starting to creep into my life. When my aunt died, I kept saying, how many people do you think came through the door? How many people do you think came through the door? Do you think they count that? Do you think they have to keep track of? And people got super annoyed with me. But I was like, I need to know how many people.
I know. I find myself sitting in, well, not now, because I haven't been to a movie theater for a long time. But I would sit in a movie theater and I would count how many people were in there. Or I would be at a program for a different library and I would count how many people were in attendance.
Yeah, it's really insidious.
It's a weird thing that we do because that's a big number for us. We get to talk about how many people walk through the door. It's just a whole weird thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're talking about next week?
I have no idea.
This is going to be fun.
Oh, dear.
We're talking about frustrating characters.
Oh.
You know those characters that you want to reach into the book and like shake? We're going to talk about them.
Oh, that's going to be a hard one to do research on.
Oh.
I'm not having anything pop out of my head.
No, I got something right at the top of my head. And as soon as we turn off the recording, I will tell you and you will think the same thing.
Oh, because I'm just trying to think of one. I'm sure when I look through my list, I'll be like, oh, that person.
Yeah. So that will be very exciting.
Is this a Pop Sugar reading challenge?
It is not.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know where I got it. So we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
My two favorite librarians. Brought to you by the Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.